Hello and welcome to the Fit and Free podcast. This is a podcast for women who want it all, to feel strong and confident in their bodies, as well as enjoying a sneaky mug on a Friday night. I'm an exercise physiologist and sports nutritionist, here to teach you how to achieve your body goals without food and your body controlling your life. So let's jump in. Hello you guys and welcome back to another ep of the Fit and Free potty. First of all, I just want to start off this episode with a lot of gratitude and thank you guys so much for all the positive feedback that you gave from not last week's episode, but the week before when I sat down with Niels and I just asked him a bunch of questions. He had no idea what I was going to ask him. And just to really show you like the raw, honest truth of what really goes on behind the scenes of, someone struggling with their relationship with food. So I'm super grateful because let me know if you want to do a follow-up episode. I might put a question and answer box on Instagram because I would love to know if you guys have any questions or anything that you guys want us to discuss. But it was fun just to have a sit down, super lighthearted chat with him. And to be honest, I didn't know what he was going to come up with. So yeah, it was actually nice to know his opinion in all of it as well, because we actually, hadn't really talked about it or reflected on it. So that was really great. And if you haven't listened yet and you're someone that's struggling with your relationship with food, I definitely recommend, because at the end of the day, struggling with your relationship with food puts so much pressure on so many elements of your life. And because your life literally revolves around calories, revolves around food, it takes so much away from you without you even realizing it, right? It affects your relationships. It affects making core memories with your loved ones. It affects so much more than just our bodies. So if you are struggling, I definitely encourage you to listen to that, or just if you're struggling with your body in general. Quick announcement, if you guys haven't written a review yet, I know you're listening, I see the downloads. It would mean the world to me, honestly, if you just took the time to please write me a review on this podcast, because the more reviews we get, the more this podcast gets pushed out to other people. And of course, I've made it my mission to help women stop fearing food so they can get strong, toned in their body and finally feel confident within themselves. So that would mean the world to me if you could just take the time and do that. All you have to do is open the Apple Podcast app and scroll right down to the bottom. You can either put 5-star, of course, not joking. You can put the star rating, or then you could also write me a little message. And I read all of them. I love all the DMs. I love your feedback. I love talking to you guys. So trust me when I say I really, really do appreciate it. So today I'm excited about this episode because I know so many women are still struggling with this. And I'm talking to my ladies who are still carb-phobes, who still are under the impression and under the belief that eating more carbs is going to make them gain weight. They can't achieve their dream body if they're eating carbs. And I get it. We see it all over social media. People are, saying don't eat this food, don't eat that food, cut out carbohydrates, do keto, do paleo, all the diet trends, all the gurus on social media who are telling you that certain foods give you cancer, all of the things. So it's so hard to know what to believe. And then of course, if you're a little bit insecure about your body, then of course you're going to latch onto these things, because it's ultimately, there's a part of you that absolutely gives you hope, and it gives you that little excitement that this is the thing that's going to help me get to where I want to be. However, I can guarantee if you're still cutting out carbohydrates, you're probably struggling with binge restrict cycles, having low energy, not having your period, not progressing in the gym, and overall not happy with your body composition. Because honestly, guys, until you start eating carbohydrates and actually fueling your body correctly, you're never going to see the results that you want in your body. And I'm going to explain why in this episode. And then I'm also going to, at the end, tell you guys how you can start including them on a daily basis so that you can start reaching your body composition goals with ease. So I get it. I used to be a carbophobe as well. I remember making my main meals with, this is my vegan era, I would make my main meals with a protein source and then just heaps of veggies. And then the reason why I would make it with so many vegetables is so that I could feel full for longer. But what I didn't realize is that because my fiber intake was so high because I was eating so many vegetables. It was negatively impacting my energy levels, and it was also impacting my digestion. There's such a thing as too much fiber and not enough fiber. And it's like, it is good nutrition is hitting that sweet spot. And for me, because I was a carbophobe, I was just loading up on so many veggies, and then also having like 0 calorie foods that were high in sugar alcohols. It was like my bloating was bad. So it was really affecting my digestion. Like I wasn't going to the toilet regularly, and I would have a lot of GI discomfort as well. And it's hard because we jump to the conclusion that it's like, oh, it's a certain food and I have to do this. But in reality, I was just underfueling my body and under eating and not eating the right balance of the macronutrients because I was afraid. I was truly afraid. And that's why I talk like it's such an important thing to have a healthy relationship with food. It's because if we're afraid to eat the food that we need, then of course our life is going to be fucking miserable. Because that's the thing. Carbs are, they're misunderstood and they're labeled as the enemy, but they play a crucial role in your overall health and fitness. So first of all, let's start off with what actually are carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates are one of the 3 macronutrients alongside protein and fats, right? They are composed of sugars, starches, and fiber found in fruits, grains, vegetables, and dairy products. There is 2 main sources of carbohydrates. We have our simple carbohydrates like glucose, fructose, and sucrose, which are quickly absorbed and provide rapid energy. These are the guys that are quote unquote labeled as the bad guys. They're your sweets, your sugary cereals, things like that, in comparison to your complex carbohydrates like starches and fiber, which are digested more slowly and provide sustained energy. And here's the thing though, like for a lot of my hardworking babes who are in the gym, who are exercising, simple carbohydrates are actually some of the best forms of carbohydrates you can have in before your training. Because simple carbohydrates, what that means is that the body processes it really easily into quick energy, right? And that's exactly what you want when you're exercising. It's like, it's combine the simple carbohydrates with some caffeine. That's going to give you so much energy to push out and pump out a really solid session in the gym. In comparison to your complex carbohydrates, like they're the ones that you want to be having at your main meals. Because of the fiber content, it's going to help you with satiety. It's going to help you with sustained energy so that we're not like going dip up, dip up, dip up. So overall, we're fueling our body really, really well. For me personally, like I love having simple carbs before my training, and I have cereal. At the moment I'm having like honey nut cornflakes, whatever they're called. But my favorite go-to is always Cocoa Pops, like ride or die. But at the moment, being in Bali, I have chosen to have a different cereal. So this is what you guys have to really understand, that the function of carbohydrates is energy for the body. Literally, it's your body's favorite source of energy. What happens is when we ingest carbs, they are broken down into glucose, which is used by cells for energy. This is particularly important for high intensity exercise because as the exercise increases in intensity, about 85% of your maximum heart rate, carbohydrates is the main primary source of energy, right? And if you don't have enough carbohydrates to pull from, then you're not going to be able to perform at your best simply because you're going to be underfueled. And this is where people get it wrong. Because their carbohydrate intake is so low, they don't have any glycogen stores to pull from to have an efficient workout. So that's why they're so freaking important. But not only are they important for our workouts, they're also important for our day-to-day function, right? The brain requires about 130 grams of glucose per day to function optimally. 130 grams, right? It cannot use fat or protein directly for energy. Low carb intake can impair cognitive function, mood, and overall mental clarity. So if you're a carbophobe and you're getting hangry, you're getting irritable, and you're having extreme sugar cravings, guys, red flag that you're not eating enough carbohydrates. Then, of course, carbohydrates are really, really important for regulation of your blood sugar levels. Carbs, especially those with fiber, help regulate blood sugar levels. Complex carbs use a slower rise in blood sugar and insulin levels, which can be beneficial for managing energy levels and preventing cravings. So it's really important to have that sustained energy throughout the day. So if you're someone who is like going up, down, dipping, getting a little bit shaky, guys, you're not fueling adequately. So now we know the function of carbs in our body. Now I really want to speak to and really link that to why avoiding carbs can actually hinder toning up. So of course, hand in hand, I've already spoken to the importance of energy and training, right? If we don't have enough energy, we're not going to be able to train. And if we're not able to push ourselves at the right intensity, and if we're not able to progress every single week, then of course we're not going to see the changes in our body that we want. Right? It's the analogy that I always use. It's like filling up your petrol car with diesel. Like, how well do you think it's going to run? It's not going to run at all. And that's what carbs are like for the body, right? And that's what I want you all to start thinking about it. That's how I want you to view food as a fuel, right? Not something to be afraid of. The other side of it is when carbs are restricted, it can also create a loss of muscle mass because the body may use protein for energy when there is not enough carbohydrates, diverting it from its primary role in muscle repair and growth, right? So if you're not eating enough carbs, then where is the body going to take it from? It's going to take it from other sources. So protein, which is then going to inhibit the muscles. So this can lead to muscle loss, which is counterproductive for those looking to tone up. Then, of course, I have to speak to metabolism slowdown as well. Like I experienced this firsthand in terms of when I was under eating and over exercising because I was not eating enough carbohydrate. It's my body shut down. My body started to shut down. I stopped getting my period. And that's what's happening. The body shuts down. Your metabolism down regulates. Your energy drops when you're not fueling it with enough energy. So this is what happens when you have long-term calorie restriction and carb restriction. Like can lower the metabolic rate, making it harder to maintain or lose weight over time. So again, it's actually counterproductive overall to even be doing it. And because the body is so smart, the body adapts to a low intake by becoming more efficient at using fewer calories, which can overall stall progress. So really, it's so crazy how many people think that they're doing the right thing by cutting out this food. But, probably if 80% of women actually started increasing their carbohydrates and actually fueling their body properly, then they're going to be a hell of a lot happier with their actual body composition. So I've touched on a lot of physiological things in terms of how the body doesn't like having enough carbohydrates. I also want to talk on some psychological levels as well. So of course, the relationship with food piece, right? Because ultimately, like if we're labeling carbs as bad or any food in general, right, what happens is we start to fear these foods, and constantly avoiding carbs can really lead to an unhealthy fixation and fear of these foods, creating a restrictive mindset. And we know the restrictive mindset is holding so many women back from actually being able to reach their body composition goals, whether that's, someone who is restricting and then overeating, or someone who is just really not eating enough. So therefore, they're not being able to build any muscle and they're still not happy with their body composition. So it's really, really important to speak on this is because, like I already said, carbs have such a bad rap, but they're so, so important to be eating them on a daily basis. So now we understand why it's freaking important to eat carbohydrates. How do we start eating them, right? So the first thing we need to understand is that everyone puts like protein on a pedestal. Like everyone's talking about eat enough protein, making sure you're getting it. Well, yes, of course, I don't disagree. Protein is really fucking important if you want to build muscle, lose fat, any nutrition phase, of course. However, I think carbohydrates are just as important as protein, because if you're not eating enough carbohydrates, then you're going to be running into all these health issues and you're going to be stalling with your progress. So how to include carbohydrates is what you guys have to realize is that your protein number is you need to eat 2 times your body weight in the grams of protein. And like, so for example, someone who is 60 kilos, they need to be eating 120 kilos of protein per day. And this is the issue, is like people think because protein is the most important, they get this protein fixation and then all of their food turns into a protein substitute. I can only eat dessert if it's a protein brownie or a protein cake or a protein anything, because they're like, oh, protein is good and carbs are bad. But here's the kicker, right? Yeah, you need your protein intake, but then 40 to 45%, the rest of your diet then gets to come from complex carbohydrates. You don't need more than 2 times your body weight of protein. You can get that super easily in 3 main meals with a quality protein source and then maybe a little bit of a snack with protein. Done, dusted. Like, why have all these unsatisfying foods of like protein desserts when you can have real fucking chocolate? Like, and I'd say that with so much love, because I'm like, I used to do exactly the same thing. Everything used to be high protein, low carb. However, and it's the reason why I wasn't seeing the results in my body. So, okay, cool. So we know we have to eat our protein. We know we have to have 40 to 45% of our diet coming from carbohydrates and then like 30% coming from fats. Like, that's a really good macro split for a lot of good macro split for training females. So how do we then do that? Is at the end of the day, what you guys have to understand is portion sizes. And this is the way that I teach nutrition inside the Fit and Free Academy, because like tracking calories is like, yeah, whatever, it's good and it teaches you a lot, but it doesn't give you the, like there's a lot of stress and anxiety in and around it, because at the end of the day, you can't track everything perfectly. You can't track when you're going out, and it's just like, it gets a little bit like, oh my God, what do I do? I can't track. So that's why it's key and it's so important to understand portion sizes, because understanding your portion control is how you can easily fit carbs within your day. Because when you understand how much carbs you need in a meal, then you can easily plate up. And that's the thing with nutrition, it actually gets to be so freaking simple when you understand it. It's just everyone's making it way more complicated than it needs to be. So for example, my portion sizes of carbohydrates at my meal is like, I'll have 2 slices of bread if I'm having bread, or like I'm having 50 grams of pasta, for example, is my portion size that I will have when I'm creating my meal. Now, because I know my portion sizes, I know how much rice to have, I know how much pasta, I know how much bread, I know how much potatoes to have. Like, I can easily go in and eat anything, anywhere, because I know how to balance my plate. Like, I know how much of each macro I need to put on my plate. And that gives me so much power, because I know exactly what I need to do every single time I'm going out for food, or if I'm at home and cooking. Like, I don't have to put anything into my fitness pal, because I've been doing it for so long now. I don't have to weigh anything. Like, I just know. I know what it looks like. And like, honestly, like, understanding your portions is key for intuitive eating. Like, this is how I've eaten out literally like every single meal except 2 since being in Bali. And like, I haven't intentionally like lost weight. So that's the key. When you guys understand your portion sizes, this is the gateway to being able to achieve a body composition goal, ultimately with this amazing sense of freedom to eat what you want when you want it. So, and that's the key, like, it's portion control ultimately, not elimination. And that's what people think that they have to do. They have to completely cut out things. However, like, if I was eating in a fat loss phase, or if I was eating in a maintenance phase, or if I'm eating in a surplus, right? Regardless of what nutritional phase I'm in, I would eat the same thing. My meals would look exactly the same, except the portions of the food would be slightly different. So for example, like if I was in a fat loss phase, I would have a little bit more veggie than I would carbohydrate and decrease that a little bit. And that's like the key with like losing weight or building muscle or anything. It's like, you know, changing around your portion sizes, and then of course measuring your progress and making changes if you need to. But that's how easy it actually gets to be. And then it gets to be this thing that's kind of just like on the back burner. It's not something that's like controlling and taking over your life. And I honestly think, I'm segueing a little bit, but that's just what I do. I honestly think that has been the key to my success over a long period, like over the last couple of years with nutrition and exercise. It's like, it's not something that I'm like, quote unquote, necessarily exactly focusing on. It's just something that I do every single day. And it's just like, yeah, cool. Like I'm getting stronger in the gym and I can feel that and I can see that. I'm fueling my body with the right portion sizes in relation to the phase that I'm in. So right now I'm in a maintenance phase, and it's like my body's just kind of ticking over in the background without me even like stressing about it. And that's like how it gets to be when you master your own portion sizes, and also of course build a healthy relationship with food and really work on your mindset. And that's going to be the key to, sustainable results, because it's no longer this massive big thing that you're doing in your life. It's just something that you do. It's a part of who you are. I don't need, someone asked me yesterday of like, oh, do you need accountability for the gym? And I was like, no, I just go to the gym every day. That's just who I am and what I do. And when you can create that for yourself, everything becomes a hell of a lot easier. Sorry, I circle back. So that's the importance, right? And really understanding and learning your portion sizes so that you can do that for yourself. Then another key thing with including carbs absolutely guilt-free is making sure that you're balancing your plate. So when you're having your carbohydrates, you want to be balancing out with protein, with fats, and then with veg for fiber. Because pairing carbs with protein and healthy fats slows the absorption of the sugars, keeping blood sugar levels stable and prolonging satiety. It's going to help you stay fuller for longer. Because what you guys have to realize is each macronutrient plays a different role in the body, and that's why you need all three of them to ensure that each part of the body that it serves is getting the right nutrients. Then, of course, we also have to look at our mindset in and around carbohydrates, because, it's all well and good to be like, yeah, I'm going to add carbohydrates. But then if you're feeling incredibly guilty after you eat them, then, of course, then there's going to be a part of you that is afraid to continue with that behavior. So that's why we also have to look at, how do you view carbohydrates? Are you still labeling them as bad? Are you labeling them as, oh, if I eat that, then that's too many calories and it's going to make me gain weight? Or maybe you have had success in the past by cutting out carbohydrates and you're like, well, if it's worked before, I'm going to do it again, right? So it's really important to look at this, because ultimately, like, that is the root cause of the food guilt and the food anxiety, is our beliefs in and around the carbohydrates. So that's why it's really important to really reflect on, well, what am I making carbs mean? If I eat carbs, what am I making that mean? Am I making that mean I'm going to gain weight? Am I making that mean that I'm not going to see results? And we really have to look at reframing that, because if we're still stuck on these rules and labeling them as bad, then of course we're still going to feel guilt. And then that can easily then lead to a restriction mindset, which then can lead to an overeating pattern. So that's why it's super, super important, not only looking at it from a strategic level, because that's all well and good, but if you don't do the mindset piece in it as well, then it's going to be really freaking hard to stick to the strategy. So you guys, I really hope this has opened your eyes a little bit in terms of carbohydrates are not the enemy, and probably a lot of you guys are potentially even under eating carbs. So let me know what you guys think of this episode, and if it was helpful and your aha moment, send me a message on Instagram. I love to hear from you guys. But I hope you're having the best day, and I will see you all here next week in the Fit and Free podcast. Bye guys. The number one challenge that all my clients face before we start working together is a lack of clarity on how much and what to eat to lose weight. Often they are making two huge mistakes: constantly trying to skip meals or eat under 1,600 calories. Secondly, only allowing themselves bad foods like chocolate on the weekend, but end up binging, all to tell themselves they're going to start again on Monday. If you feel like you have tried every diet under the sun and still can't figure out what to eat to achieve your weight loss goals, take my free 2-minute quiz. You can find the link in the show notes down below, and it will help you figure out exactly what you're doing wrong with your nutrition and exercise, and exactly what to do to fix it, so that you can finally be confident in your body and achieve your weight loss goals.